The wedding band felt like a shackle as I stood beside the hospital bed, my hand trembling over the pale, motionless man who hadn't opened his eyes in 3 years. "I'm sorry," I whispered to Marcus Thornwood's unresponsive form, knowing he couldn't hear my apology for this arranged humiliation, marrying a coma patient to save my family from bankruptcy, while his pack gained a convenient legal shield for their comatose alpha's assets. Wait, before the next revelation unfolds. If this mystery has already captivated you, let us know where you're following this story from. To ensure you don't miss unexpected claims, broken bonds, or awakenings under the moon, subscribe and stay close. Now, back to the scene. "Sign here, Miss Winters." The lawyer's voice cut through my spiraling thoughts, his expression professionally blank as he pushed the marriage certificate across the bedside table. Behind him, Marcus's Uncle Gerald watched with cold calculation, his expensive suit and predatory smile making my skin crawl. I looked down at the document, then at the man who would become my husband in name only. Marcus Thornwood had been handsome once. I could see it in the strong jaw, the aristocratic nose, the thick, dark hair that someone kept neatly trimmed despite his condition. But 3 years in a coma had left him gaunt, his sun-starved skin almost translucent under the harsh hospital lights. "My father's debts," I started, hating how small my voice sounded. "Will be completely forgiven," Gerald finished smoothly, "the moment you become Mrs. Thornwood. Your family keeps their home, their dignity. All you have to do is sign your name and play the devoted wife until, well, until nature takes its course. Until Marcus died." He didn't say it, but the meaning hung heavy in the antiseptic air. I was 23 years old, and I was signing my life away to a corpse. My hand moved across the paper, forming the letters of my name, Sarah Winters, for the last time. The pen felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. When I finished, Gerald's smile widened, showing too many teeth. "Excellent. Now the ceremony." He gestured to a minister I hadn't noticed lurking in the corner, a thin man with rheumy eyes who looked like he performed a lot of marriages he didn't approve of. The ceremony lasted 7 minutes. I repeated words I didn't mean to a man who couldn't hear them, slid a gold band onto his limp finger, and watched Gerald forge Marcus's signature on the certificate with practiced ease. When the minister said, "You may kiss the groom," I thought he was joking. He wasn't. "It's traditional," Gerald said, his tone making it clear this wasn't optional. "And legally, it completes the ceremony." I leaned over the hospital bed, my hair falling forward to curtain Marcus's face. Up close, I could see the faint stubble on his jaw, smell the antiseptic and something underneath it, pine and rain and something wild I couldn't name. My hands gripped the bedrail as I lowered my lips to his, intending the briefest, most clinical touch possible. The moment our mouths met, electricity slammed through me. Marcus's lips were warm, too warm for someone in a coma. The wild scent intensified, filling my nose, my lungs, my head. I tried to pull back, but his hand that had been motionless for 3 years, suddenly locked around the back of my neck, holding me in place. His eyes snapped open. They weren't human eyes. They were wolf eyes, amber and glowing, and so intense I couldn't breathe. His grip tightened, not painful, but inescapable, and I felt something pass between us, some invisible current that made my whole body sing with recognition. Then he released me and fell back against the pillows, those impossible eyes sliding shut again. I stumbled backward, my hand flying to my mouth. My lips tingled where we'd touched, and I could still feel the imprint of his fingers on my neck. "What?" I started, But Gerald was already at the bedside, checking Marcus' vitals with shaking hands. The monitor's steady beep continued unchanged. Nothing had happened. Everything had happened. Muscle spasm, Gerald said too quickly. Common in long-term coma patients. Means nothing. But I'd seen his eyes. I'd felt that grip, purposeful and strong. And I'd felt something else, something that terrified me more than anything else about this nightmare day. The moment his hand touched me, every cell in my body had screamed, "Mine." Gerald ushered me out quickly after that, barely giving me time to collect the copies of our marriage certificate. In the parking lot, I sat in my 15-year-old Honda with my head against the steering wheel, trying to understand what had just happened. I was married to a man in a coma who had wolf eyes and had held me like he knew me. My phone buzzed, a text from my mother. "Did you do it? Please tell me you did it." I typed back, "It's done. Dad's debts are cleared." Her response came immediately. "Thank you, baby. I know this is hard, but it won't be for long. The doctors say he won't last another month." I was supposed to be relieved. Instead, I thought about those amber eyes and felt something twist in my chest. That night, I couldn't sleep. I'd moved into the Thornwood estate as part of the arrangement. Gerald had insisted, saying it would look better for the legalities. The mansion was enormous, cold and empty, except for a skeleton staff who looked at me with either pity or contempt. My husband remained in the private medical wing, monitored around the clock by nurses who whispered when I passed. At midnight, I gave up on sleep and wandered the halls. I found myself outside the medical wing without consciously deciding to go there. The night nurse looked up from her station, startled. "Mrs. Thornwood? Is everything all right?" Mrs. Thornwood. The name felt like a costume that didn't fit. "I just wanted to check on him," I said. "Marcus, my husband." The nurse's expression softened with sympathy. "Of course. Go ahead." The room was dimmer at night, lit only by the glow of medical monitors. Marcus lay exactly as he had during our wedding, perfectly still, perfectly silent. But now I couldn't unsee what I'd seen, the amber eyes, the wolf that had looked out at me. I approached the bed slowly, half afraid those eyes would open again. "I don't know if you can hear me," I whispered. "The doctors say probably not, but I felt something today, when I kissed you. I know it sounds crazy." No response, just the steady beep of the heart monitor. "Your uncle is using both of us," I continued, the words spilling out. "I don't know what he wants, but it's not good. And I'm sorry I agreed to this. I'm sorry you're trapped in here, and I'm sorry someone like me is the person you're stuck with." I reached out, hesitated, then took his hand. It was warm, much warmer than it should have been. I stroked my thumb across his knuckles, studying the strong bones, the calluses that spoke of a life before the coma, a physical, active life. "I promise I'll try to figure out what's really going on," I said, "and if there's any way to help you, I'll find it." His fingers twitched in mine. I froze, watching, but nothing else happened. Still, I could have sworn I felt gratitude, warmth, some emotion that wasn't mine flowing through the point where we touched. I stayed for another hour, talking to him about nothing important. My college degree in comparative mythology, my abandoned dreams of traveling, the garden I'd grown in our backyard before my father's business collapsed. When I finally left, I felt less alone than I had in months. The next morning, I woke to Gerald Thornwood standing at the foot of my bed. I jerked upright, clutching the blanket to my chest. "What are you doing here?" "We need to discuss your duties as Marcus's wife." He moved to the window, adjusting the curtains like he owned the room, which, technically, he did. "You'll attend the Thornwood Corporation board meetings as his proxy. Sign what I tell you to sign. Smile for the press. Play the tragic young bride." That wasn't part of the agreement. His eyes went cold. The agreement was that your family's debts disappear. They can reappear just as easily. One call to my lawyers and your father goes to prison for fraud. Your mother loses the house. Your little—" he smiled. "Well, 18-year-old Lily still has a few years of college ahead of her, doesn't she? Shame if she had to drop out." Rage flooded through me, hot and wild. For a second, my vision actually blurred red at the edges, and I smelled that same pine and rain scent from yesterday. Gerald took a step back, his face going pale. Then the moment passed, and I was just scared, furious Sarah again. "Fine," I bit out. "I'll do what you want." He recovered quickly, smoothing his tie. "Good. First board meeting is tomorrow. Wear something appropriate." He paused at the door. "And stay away from Marcus's room at night. The nurses reported your visit. It's unseemly." After he left, I sat shaking with anger and something else, something that had felt powerful and dangerous when Gerald threatened my family, something that had made him afraid. I spent the day researching the Thornwood family on my laptop. What I found was strange. Marcus Thornwood had been the CEO of Thornwood Corporation at just 28, a business prodigy who'd taken his family's struggling timber company and transformed it into a multi-billion-dollar enterprise in just 5 years. He'd been handsome, confident, and notoriously private, rarely photographed except at major business events. Then, 3 years ago, he'd collapsed during a board meeting. The official story was an aneurysm. He'd been in a coma ever since, and Gerald had taken over as acting CEO. But there were gaps in the story. Marcus's collapse had happened the day after the full moon, and in every photo I found of him, his eyes held that same amber tint I'd seen when they'd snapped open yesterday. I dug deeper, following a hunch into my own research area. Thornwood was an old name with roots in European folklore. Thorns for protection, woods for wild places. Families with names like that often had complicated histories. I pulled up my notes from a mythology paper I'd written in college, scanning through references to shapeshifters. Most cultures had legends of people who could change form: wolves, bears, ravens. The common threads were always the same: powerful families, careful marriages within certain bloodlines, territories guarded fiercely. Shifters. They were supposed to be myths, but I'd seen those wolf eyes. My phone buzzed with a calendar reminder: board meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. I had less than 24 hours to prepare to represent a man I didn't know, in a world I didn't understand, surrounded by people who probably wanted me gone. I went back to Marcus's room that night despite Gerald's warning. The same nurse was on duty, but she just nodded and went back to her magazine. Inside, I sat in the chair beside the bed and opened my laptop. "I've been researching you," I told Marcus's still form, "your family, the company. And I think I'm starting to understand what you are, what Gerald's really after." I pulled up the Thornwood Corporation's financial records, the public ones at least. He's been selling off your assets, slowly, carefully, but it's there. Pieces of your territory disguised as business deals. And he's blocked every attempt by the board to declare you incompetent and assign a different proxy. He needs you alive but unconscious. Needs someone he can control as your legal representative. I looked at Marcus's face, searching for any sign he could hear me. He needs me. A nobody from nowhere with no knowledge of your world and every reason to do what I'm told. He must think he won the lottery when my father's debts landed in his lap. The heart monitor beeped steadily. But was it my imagination, or had the rhythm changed slightly? Faster? Agitated? "The question is, what happens if you wake up?" I continued. "Gerald's made himself very rich and very powerful in 3 years. He won't want to give that up, which means Gerald needed Marcus dead, soon. before anyone could question the marriage, the proxy, the systematic dismantling of the Thornwood Empire. And I just signed on to help him do it. "I won't," I said fiercely, taking Marcus' hand again. That warmth flooded through me, and this time I didn't imagine the response. His fingers curled around mine, weak but deliberate. "I don't care what Gerald threatens. I'll find a way to protect you, to wake you up. There has to be a way." His grip tightened. His lips moved, forming a word without sound. I leaned closer, my ear nearly touching his mouth. "What? What are you trying to say?" The word came out as barely a breath. "Run." I jerked back. His eyes were still closed, his face still slack. But I'd heard it. I definitely heard it. "I'm not running," I told him. "Not from Gerald, not from this. You're stuck with me now, Marcus Thornwood, for better or worse, remember?" Was that the ghost of a smile on his lips? I couldn't be sure. I stayed until dawn, researching shifter legends and Thornwood Corporation finances in equal measure. By the time the sun rose, I had a theory. Wild, impossible, but it fit. Shifters were real. The Thornwood family were wolves, and Marcus wasn't in a coma at all. He was trapped. The board meeting was exactly as awful as I'd anticipated. 15 men and women in expensive suits stared at me like I was something unpleasant they'd stepped in, while Gerald smiled his predatory smile and pushed papers across the polished table for me to sign. "As Marcus's wife and legal proxy, you'll approve the sale of the Northern timber rights," he said smoothly. "It's a very generous offer from Crescent Industries." I scanned the document, noting the acreage. 5,000 acres of old-growth forest. This is a significant portion of Thornwood land. Marcus would want the company to remain profitable during his incapacity. Several board members shifted uncomfortably. I caught a few exchanged glances that looked almost sympathetic. Not everyone here was on Gerald's side. "I'd like to review this more carefully before signing," I said. "Consult with Marcus." Gerald's smile froze. "Marcus is in a coma." "He's my husband. I still value his input." I stood, gathering the papers. "I'll give you my decision next week." The room erupted in whispers. Gerald's face went purple. "You! Is there a problem, Gerald?" The voice came from the end of the table, an older woman with silver hair and sharp eyes. "She's legally entitled to review time. Or are you saying Marcus's own wife shouldn't be careful with his legacy?" Gerald forced his expression smooth. "Of course not, Eleanor. Take your time, Sarah. Though I hope you'll remember what's at stake." The threat was clear. My family, my sister, everything I'd agreed to this nightmare to protect. But as I walked out of that boardroom with the unsigned papers, I felt that wild rage again, that red-tinged power. And I thought about Marcus's wolf eyes and his whispered warning. Something bigger was happening here, something that went beyond corporate greed. I needed answers, and I knew exactly where to find them. That afternoon, I drove to the university library where I'd spent 4 years getting my mythology degree. Professor Chen looked up from her desk with surprise and delight when I walked into her office. "Sarah, I haven't seen you since graduation. How's the real world treating you?" "Strangely," I said, sinking into the familiar chair across from her desk. "Professor, I need to ask you about something that's going to sound crazy." She smiled. "My dear, I spend my days studying myths and legends. Crazy is my specialty." I took a breath. Shapeshifters, specifically wolves. What do the old stories say about trapping them? Professor Chen's smile faded. She studied me for a long moment, then got up and closed her office door. "What's really going on, Sarah?" I told her everything: the arranged marriage, Marcus' condition, the wolf eyes, Gerald's schemes. She listened without interrupting, her expression growing more troubled. When I finished, she was quiet for a while. Then she opened a locked drawer in her desk and pulled out a leather-bound journal. "What I'm about to tell you doesn't leave this room," she said. "20 years ago, I researched shapeshifter bloodlines for my dissertation. My committee rejected it, said it was too fantastical, not scholarly enough. But I found things, Sarah, evidence that some of the old families—" She paused. "They're real. The wolves, the bears, the ravens, they live among us, hidden in plain sight." My hands trembled as I took the journal she offered. Inside were detailed notes, genealogies, even photographs, including one of a younger Marcus Thornwood standing beside a massive wolf with amber eyes. The Thornwoods are one of the oldest wolf packs in North America, powerful, territorial, and deeply connected to their land. If Marcus is trapped as you say, it's not just a coma. Someone's done something to his wolf. How? What could do that? She flipped through the journal to a page covered in cramped handwriting. There are old magics, dark ones. Potions that can sever a shifter from their animal, trap them between forms. It's incredibly dangerous. If the spell isn't broken within a certain time frame, the shifter dies. Or worse, stays trapped forever, slowly losing their humanity. 3 years, I whispered. He's been like this for 3 years. Then time is running out. The spell, if that's what this is, will be anchored to something. An object, a person, a place. Find the anchor, break it, and Marcus should wake. How do I find it? Professor Chen smiled grimly. That's the hard part. You'll need help from his pack. But from what you've told me about Gerald, I suspect he's isolated Marcus from anyone who might be loyal to him. I thought about the board meeting, the uncomfortable glances. Not everyone. There was a woman, Eleanor. She defended me. Start there. And Sarah? Professor Chen gripped my hand. Be careful. If Gerald's willing to trap his own nephew for power, he won't hesitate to hurt you. I left the university with the journal hidden in my bag and a growing sense of urgency. 3 years. How much longer did Marcus have? That night, I went to his room with a purpose. The nurse recognized me now and just waved me through. I sat beside the bed and opened the journal to the page about the Thornwoods. "Your pack," I read aloud. "The Thornwood wolves have held this territory for 6 generations. The alpha's duty is to protect the land, the pack, and the balance between human and wild. The alpha mate—" I paused, my throat tight. "The alpha mate is chosen by fate, not convenience. The wolves know their true mate by scent, by touch, by an undeniable bond." I looked at Marcus's face, at our joined hands. "Is that what happened?" I whispered. "When I kissed you, did you recognize me as your mate?" The thought was insane. I'd known him for 48 hours. But I couldn't deny what I'd felt. That overwhelming sense of mine, the way my body had responded to his touch, the connection that grew stronger every time I was near him. "I don't know how to break whatever Gerald did to you," I continued, "but I'm going to find out. I'm going to find your pack members, the ones still loyal to you. And I'm going to—" Marcus's eyes opened. Not confused or struggling this time. Fully, completely open. Those amber wolf eyes staring directly at me with absolute clarity. "Marcus?" I breathed. He couldn't speak. Whatever trapped him still held most of his body rigid. But his eyes said everything. Recognition, gratitude, warning, and something else. Something that made my heart race. Want, need, a claiming that transcended words. His hand moved in mine, fingers tracing a pattern on my palm. I looked down, trying to understand. He repeated the motion. 3 taps, a circle, 2 taps. A code, I guessed? His eyes flickered in what might have been agreement. I grabbed a pen and paper from the bedside table. "Show me." Over the next hour, we worked out a painful, laborious communication system. He could move one hand slightly, blink his eyes, nothing more. But it was enough. Letter by letter, he spelled out a name. Eleanor first. "Eleanor from the board?" I asked. He blinked once. "Yes."
She's Pack? Yes. Can she help break the spell? His hand squeezed mine urgently, and he spelled, "Anchor here. Find it." The anchor is here, in the house? Yes. Where? He struggled, his face contorting with effort. Finally, Gerald's office, hidden. I'll find it, I promised. I'll break this, Marcus. I swear. His eyes held mine, and I felt that connection again, that pull. His hand moved against my palm, tracing letters. Mate. True mate. My breath caught. Is that what this is? We're fated? Yes. His eyes blazed with amber fire, and I felt an answering heat in my chest, a wild joy mixed with terror.
"I'm human," I said weakly. "I don't understand any of this." His expression softened, and his thumb stroked my wrist where my pulse hammered. The message was clear. It doesn't matter. You're mine. I'm yours. "This is crazy," I whispered, but I was smiling, and when I leaned down to kiss his forehead, he managed to turn his head just enough to catch my lips instead. The same electricity as before, but stronger, sweeter. I felt his wolf reach for mine, except I didn't have one. But something in me reached back anyway, something I'd never known was there. When I pulled away, tears streaked my face. "I'll save you. I promise." His eyes said, "I know." The next morning, I called Eleanor Chen. She answered on the second ring, her voice cautious. "Sarah, I was hoping you'd reach out. We need to talk. Not at the office. Somewhere private. There's a cafe near the university, Petal and Pine. 1 hour." She was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with 2 cups of tea. Up close, I could see the resemblance to Marcus, something in the sharp features, the amber tint to her gray eyes. "Your Pack," I said without preamble. Eleanor didn't flinch. "Gerald said you were nobody, a convenient human with no knowledge of our world. He was wrong. I was nobody, but marrying Marcus changes things." I leaned forward. "He's trapped. Someone's using magic to keep him in that coma. Gerald, I think. And you know it." Eleanor's composure cracked. "We've suspected for 3 years, but without proof, without Marcus able to communicate, we couldn't move against Gerald. He's consolidated too much power, too many allies. Half the pack believes Marcus's coma is natural. It's not. There's an anchor hidden in Gerald's office. Marcus told me." Her eyes widened. "Marcus communicated with you? How is that possible?" "I'm his mate." The words felt strange but right. His true mate. He recognized me when we kissed at the wedding. Eleanor sat back, studying me with new eyes. "His true mate. That changes everything. The mate bond can break curses, overcome magic. It's one of the strongest forces in shifter lore." "Then help me. Help me find the anchor and destroy it." She smiled, fierce and sharp, a predator's smile. "Oh, my dear, I thought you'd never ask." We planned for 3 days. Eleanor brought in other pack members, ones she trusted, who'd stayed loyal to Marcus despite Gerald's attempts to isolate them. I learned that shifter packs were like extended families, bound by blood and magic and loyalty. Marcus, as Alpha, held them all together. His incapacitation had fractured the pack, leaving them vulnerable. "Gerald's been working with outside wolves," Eleanor explained, "offering pieces of our territory in exchange for their support when he moves to declare himself permanent Alpha. It's why he needed Marcus married to someone controllable, to legitimize his claim as acting Alpha while Marcus is unable to lead. But if Marcus wakes up, Gerald loses everything, which is why he'll kill Marcus the moment he suspects his trap is weakening." The plan was risky. I would attend a Thornwood Corporation gala, a monthly event Gerald used to show off the company's success. While everyone was distracted, Eleanor and 2 other pack members would break into Gerald's office to search for the anchor.
The night of the gala, I dressed in a black gown Eleanor had provided. It was more elegant than anything I'd ever owned, making me look like I belonged in the Thornwood world. I studied myself in the mirror, hardly recognizing the woman staring back. "You're doing the right thing," I told my reflection. But my hands shook as I clasped a silver necklace, another gift from Eleanor, this one with a small pendant that would let her track my location. The gala was overwhelming. Hundreds of people in designer clothes, champagne flowing, classical music playing. Gerald found me immediately, his hand clamping on my elbow. "Smile," he hissed.
"And don't do anything stupid." I smiled. I circulated. I played the tragic young bride, accepting condolences about my comatose husband with gracious nods. And I watched the clock, knowing Eleanor and the others were breaking into the office 3 floors above us. An hour passed, then 2. I was starting to panic when my phone buzzed with a text. Got it. Relief flooded through me. I made my excuses and slipped away from the party, heading for the elevator. But Gerald stepped into my path. "Going somewhere?" "I'm tired. I'm going to check on Marcus." His eyes narrowed. "You've been spending a lot of time with him lately. The nurses say you talk to him for hours. Tell me, Sarah, what do you talk about with a man who can't hear you?" "My day, my thoughts, the fact that his uncle is stealing from him." Gerald's face went cold. "Careful. Or what? You'll threaten my family again? You need me, Gerald. You need Marcus' wife to sign off on your deals. Which means you need me cooperative." I stepped closer, letting him see the anger in my eyes. "I'll play your game, but I want something in return." "What?" "Marcus gets the best care available, private specialists, experimental treatments, everything." He studied me suspiciously. "Why do you care? He's nothing to you." "He's my husband. And unlike you, I have a conscience." Gerald laughed, a harsh sound. "Fine, waste my money on specialists. It won't change anything." He leaned in close. "Marcus is never waking up. The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be." I smiled sweetly. "We'll see." In Marcus's room, I found Eleanor waiting with a wooden box about the size of my palm. It was carved with symbols I didn't recognize, and it radiated a sickly, cold energy. "This is it," Eleanor said. "The anchor. Carved from thorn wood, bound with Marcus's blood and hair. Dark magic." I took the box gingerly. Up close, I could feel it, a wrongness, a poison that made my skin crawl. How do we break it? Fire's traditional. "But with something this strong," she looked at Marcus, "it might require your blood, mate blood, to counter what Gerald used to create it." I didn't hesitate. I pulled out the knife Eleanor offered and cut my palm, letting blood drip onto the box. The moment my blood touched the wood, it hissed like water on hot iron. The symbols glowed red, then black, then began to crack. "Now burn it," Eleanor said. We took the box to the fireplace in Marcus's room. As I dropped it into the flames, a scream echoed through the house. Gerald, somehow sensing his spell breaking. The box writhed in the fire, shadows pouring out like smoke. I felt resistance, a pulling at my chest, trying to stop me. I gripped Marcus's hand. "Fight it. Come back to me." The shadows lunged toward us, but they couldn't reach. The mate bond protected us, a golden light that surrounded the bed. Marcus's eyes snapped open, fully aware, and he gasped, a real breath, deep and shuddering. The box exploded into ash. The shadows vanished. Marcus sat up. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then he was pulling me into his arms, his face buried in my hair, his whole body shaking.
Sarah, my Sarah, you broke it. You saved me. Your pack helped, I managed, though I was crying too hard to make the words clear. My mate saved me. He pulled back to look at me, his hands framing my face. His eyes were amber fire, his wolf right at the surface. I felt you from the moment you kissed me, knew you were mine, tried so hard to warn you, to protect you, but I was trapped. I know, you're free now. He kissed me then, deep and claiming, and I felt his wolf surge forward to meet something in me. Not a wolf, I was human, but something that recognized him, that had always been waiting for him. The door slammed open. Gerald stood there with two massive men I didn't recognize. Shifters, I realized, catching their amber eyes. Step away from him, Sarah, now.
Marcus rose from the bed, moving between me and his uncle. Even after 3 years unconscious, he radiated power, alpha power. You bound me, your own nephew, your own alpha. You were weak, Gerald spat, too concerned with protecting worthless humans and animals. Under my leadership, the Thornwoods have thrived. You've sold our territory piece by piece, betrayed our pack to outsiders. Marcus's voice went deeper, resonant with a growl. Challenge me, Gerald. If you think you deserve to be alpha, challenge me properly. I knew enough now to understand what that meant. A formal challenge, a fight to the death or submission. Winner takes control of the pack. Gerald smiled. With pleasure. You've been in a coma for 3 years, nephew. You're weak. I'm going to enjoy tearing you apart. No, I started, but Eleanor gripped my arm. He has to, she whispered. It's the only way to reclaim his position, to keep the pack safe. They shifted right there in the room. Gerald went first, his bones cracking and reforming, his skin sprouting gray fur. He was huge, scarred, a fighter. Marcus followed, his transformation more fluid, and I gasped at the beauty of it. A massive black wolf with amber eyes, powerful and primal. The fight was brutal. They crashed through furniture, their growls shaking the walls. Gerald fought dirty, using his weight and experience. But Marcus had something Gerald didn't. 3 years of rage and a mate to protect. Every time Gerald got too close to me, Marcus's attacks intensified. Finally, Marcus got his jaws around Gerald's throat. One bite and it would be over. But instead, Marcus held him there, growling a clear message: submit. Gerald's wolf went limp, head bowed. Submission. Marcus released him and shifted back to human form, his body covered in cuts and bruises, but his eyes blazing with authority. You're banished. Take your allies and leave Thornwood territory. If you return, I'll kill you. Gerald shifted back, his face purple with humiliation and rage. But he nodded and stumbled from the room, his shifter allies following. The moment they were gone, Marcus collapsed. I caught him, struggling under his weight, and Eleanor helped me get him back to the bed. He needs to rest, she said, shifting after 3 years bedridden, then fighting. His body needs time. But Marcus grabbed my hand, holding tight. Stay. I'm not going anywhere, I promised. Over the next weeks, Marcus healed. The pack rallied around him, thrilled to have their alpha back. He threw himself into repairing the damage Gerald had done, retrieving sold land where possible, rebuilding alliances, restoring pack cohesion. I helped where I could, learning the complicated politics of shifter society. And every night he came to me. We talked for hours, learning each other. He told me about growing up as an alpha heir, the weight of responsibility, the isolation of leadership. I told him about my ordinary human life, my love of myths that turned out to be real, my family's struggles. "I never wanted to trap you," he said one night as we sat in the garden, his arm around my shoulders. "The mating bond, for humans, it's a choice. You don't have to accept it just because my wolf recognized you." I turned to face him. "And if I want to accept it?" His eyes blazed. "Then I claim you, properly, before the pack, before the moon. Make you my mate in every way. I'm human. You're mine. The rest doesn't matter." I kissed him, pouring everything I felt into it, the terror of those first days, the wonder of discovery, the love that had grown against all odds. When we broke apart, both breathless, I said, "Then claim me." The mating ceremony happened under the full moon, with the pack gathered in the forest at the heart of Thornwood territory. Eleanor had explained it to me, part wedding, part ancient ritual, binding me to Marcus and to the pack itself. I wore white, traditional for the ceremony. Marcus wore nothing but his wolf form, sitting at the center of the gathered pack. As I approached, he shifted back to human, gloriously unself-conscious in his nudity. This was how mates came together: wolf and human, animal and civilization, wild and tame. He took my hand, and we spoke the old words Eleanor had taught me. Words about protection and partnership, strength and trust, the bond that transcended form or species. Then Marcus pulled out a knife, the same ceremonial blade his father had used, his grandfather, back through generations. "Your blood and mine," he said, "mixed and shared. You become pack, and I become yours." He cut his palm, then mine, and we pressed them together. I felt the bond snap into place like a lock engaging, not forcing, but completing something that had always waiting. His pack howled their approval, their voices rising to the moon. When he kissed me, I tasted wild things, pine and earth and freedom. And when he carried me into the forest, his pack forming a protective circle at a respectful distance, I went willingly into a new life. We made love under the stars, and though I couldn't shift, I felt his wolf with every touch, every kiss. Felt it recognize me, claim me, bind itself to me with a fierceness that stole my breath. And something in me, that part that had reached back when he was trapped, rose to meet him. "My mate," he whispered against my skin. "My Sarah. Mine." "Yours," I agreed. "Always." 3 months later, I stood in the Thornwood Corporation's boardroom with my hand in Marcus's. The board had voted unanimously to restore him as CEO, and Gerald's allies had been systematically removed. The company was healing, as was the pack. "Last order of business," Marcus said, squeezing my hand. "I'm creating a new position, Director of Territorial Conservation. The role will focus on protecting our land, maintaining the balance between development and preservation. And I'm appointing Sarah to fill it." I'd expected surprise, but the board members just nodded approvingly. Eleanor grinned from her seat. "I'm not qualified," I protested weakly. "You have a degree in mythology, which around here means you understand our history better than most. You care about the land, and you're my mate." Marcus smiled at me, that private smile that never failed to make my heart race. "You're exactly qualified." That night, we stood on the balcony of our bedroom now, not just his, looking out over Thornwood territory. Miles of forest stretched in every direction, dark and beautiful and wild. "No regrets?" Marcus asked, his arm around my waist. "About the forced marriage, the coma, all of it?" I thought about the girl who'd walked into that hospital room 3 months ago, terrified and alone, signing her life away to save her family. I thought about Gerald's threats, the desperate search for answers, the moment I'd dropped that cursed box into the fire. "Not one," I said honestly. "Every terrible thing led me here, to you, to this life." My fierce mate. He nuzzled into my neck,
and I felt his wolf's contentment rumbling through him. Who would have thought? A human who could break dark magic and steal an alpha's heart. I didn't steal it. You gave it to me. The moment you woke up. Before that, he corrected. The moment you kissed me at that mockery of a wedding. My wolf knew. Even trapped, even dying, it knew you were ours. I turned in his arms, studying his face. The strong features I'd first seen slack and lifeless, now animated with love and life and that wild wolf fire. Take me running. His eyes blazed with joy. He shifted, clothes tearing away, and stood before me as the massive black wolf I'd come to love as much as the man. I climbed onto his back, burying my fingers in his thick fur, and he took off into the forest. We ran for hours, wolf and human, alpha and mate, through the territory we protected together.
And somewhere in that wild darkness, with the moon above and the earth below, and Marcus's powerful body carrying me forward, I understood the truth. I'd been forced to marry a man in a coma. That kiss had revealed his shifter identity, but it had also revealed my own. Not a wolf, but something just as important. His mate, his match, his other half. And now, together, we were unstoppable.